Backstage, a behind-the-scenes look at local arts and culture. Backstage with Tshila on ZiFM Stereo. Backstage with Tshila on ZiFM Stereo. Tshila on ZiFM Stereo. On ZiFM Stereo. Backstage with Tshila on ZiFM Stereo.
Good evening, my name is Tshila. Welcome to the program Backstage, the official access to the main stage. This is a show that was created to give a platform to artists and also so that we can celebrate the African and creative mind and also in Zimbabwe, as well as it's a program where we can exchange cultural exchange program on a global level and give a new voice to the Zimbabwean creative industry. And tonight in the studio, I'm joined by Danai Gurira. And also joining us is Marquand. Is that correct?
Marquand, yeah.
Marquand.
I'm in the country where my name is said correctly.
is that French?
It is, yeah.
And also joining us is Patience Tawemba from Aumasi. Apparently, Patience and Danai are the co-founders of Aumasi. What does Aumasi mean?
Almasi means diamond in Swahili.
So what's the connection? How is it projected in this organization of yours?
I think it's because what we're seeking to create is an organization that lasts forever, just like diamonds last forever. And I think it's also about mining diamonds in the rough in the Zimbabwean arts industry and the African arts industry. So I think that's the significance of the name.
Alright. Have you been finding diamonds?
Lots of diamonds in Zimbabwe.
Not coal?
No. Lots of diamonds.
You can turn coal into diamonds.
Yeah. Then are you home for the holidays or are you here to see family?
Neither. I'm here. Yeah, I'm always here to relax a little bit, but largely I'm here for our annual retreat as an organization and also to help with the training and to bring Ross here for the training.
Speaking of the training, maybe Ross is going to share more on that.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm out here working with about 8 students right now, and we're really helping them with vocal work more than anything. We find that to be competitive on an international level and on a local level, we want to train the students at Almasi to really learn how to hone their voice, find their voice within themselves, both from a breathing perspective, from a physical perspective, and that's really what I've been brought in to work on.
All right. And Danai, I've always known you in theater. Or was it difficult, or is it difficult to alternate between theater and film? Is it the same?
It's definitely not the same. It's all storytelling, but it's definitely a different medium. The camera comes really close in on you and doesn't need as large or projected a performance as the theater does. There is definitely a theatrical muscle and a film muscle, TV muscle. And so, there is very much the alteration of expression and understanding the medium as you step from one to the other. While simultaneously, they're both about storytelling. There's no work that you circumvent by being a part of one medium versus the other. The work is the same.
All right. And how does one get involved in these training programs and workshops that you are doing?
Well, Amasi really is about, we do mine and look for those who are talented. I will be honest, we're not like trying to get everybody up in Amasi. Right. We are looking to create an organization and to create to help the industry find its talented people. Like, I'm not going to try and go become a doctor tomorrow because that's just not my talent. So we are looking for the talented. We're looking for those who are naturally gifted in the area of the dramatic arts, and then we want to really invest in those people, and that's what we've been doing, is once we found the talented folks who are committed and want to really excel at their craft and in their abilities, we then really invest in them. And it's always very exciting to find new talent and to see them really start to excel and to start to really believe in themselves and in their gifts. And really with this training, it really was a result of realizing that we needed to bring more than, we brought acting training here, we brought playwright training here, we brought professional production staff here to conduct full productions, but we have to start working with the full instrument. and the ability to vary not only how you use your voice, but also how you can step into different worlds, accent-wise. You know, we know a lot of different actors out there who can act in various, they're from various nationalities. As Africans, as Zimbabweans, we want to be able to do that too. We want to be able to act as Zimbabweans and act as Nigerians, and then act as Brits and act as Americans, and be able to have that facility. So this is also the beginning of that training to make us really globally competitive.
I understand Ross is a master in voice impersonation.
He is.
That's sweet, thank you.
How difficult is it? What does it take to be a good voice impersonator?
I think it takes a lot of time. I think it takes a lot of time and effort, and being okay with locking yourself indoors for days on end and listening to someone's voice over and over again. I think that repetition is the way that I learn the best.
Do you like always stay in character? You know, like sometimes do you forget, you know, that you...
I do. Sometimes I catch myself on set or on job, and you just get lost into it, and you can't get out of it. So it definitely does happen, unfortunately. But it can be fun for others.
It sounds very fascinating. Who are your best character impersonation?
I think that people love Matthew McConaughey more than anybody. I think Matthew McConaughey is one that they tend to hear the most, and angry Harrison Ford they seem to like as well. Colin Farrell, so on and so forth. You know. Al Pacino. Yeah.
I like Al Pacino.
Oh yeah, very nice.
I like Al Pacino. Can you do an Al Pacino impersonation?
Oh, Tshila, I would love to give you a little Al Pacino. Yeah, we're gonna do it. Real nice, Zimbabwe style. Yeah, very nice.
Oh God, you have to see it too, because of course people who are not only hearing him can't see that he kind of starts to look like the guy.
Walking Dead. You know, ever since we posted about this show, that you guys were coming to the show, there's been a lot of questions. People want to know, Danai, how you got the role. The Walking Dead.
It's a long and arduous road, you know. No one rolls out of bed and gets a role on a show like that. It definitely has been, like, I've been a part of theater and working in this craft since I was 12 years old here in Zimbabwe, and I was a founding member of Chipawo, and then working through theater in high school, and then going to university in the US, and then going to another training program.
So you just didn't magically appear?
No, it's not magical. It's never magical. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of student loan debt. You know, it's a lot of, you know, time and effort that goes into it. And then eventually my first play was performed across the US and in Los Angeles. And the casting director who ultimately called me in to audition for Michonne saw me there. But she only called me to audition for Michonne 6 years later. So it is very much about planting seed and hoping to see it blossom one day.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the character that you play?
Sure. Michonne is The Walking Dead. Those of you who don't know, is a show about a zombie, the aftermath of a zombie apocalypse, or being within a zombie apocalypse rather. And we follow a specific band of survivors who are trying to stay alive and who are dealing with all the perils that come with being in such a wretched state, wretched, you know, result of what it is. We don't know how the thing came about. We don't know. Just know people are turning into zombies. And Michonne is one of the survivors in this band of survivors, and she's a very strong woman, initially a very wounded woman who had a lot of trauma and acted out in ways that showed that trauma. And during the course of the series, she has definitely opened up. It's of course derived from the comic book The Walking Dead, and that character is from the comic book. And she, through the course of time, starts to grow into someone who's opening up a little bit. And her weapon of choice, because everyone has to have one, is a katana, which I guess is a significant... Everyone always asks me, where is your katana? I'm like, really? No one asks where the wig is, because, you know, that would make sense. If I had the wig on, then maybe I should have the katana, but, you know, when I don't have the wig on, don't expect to see the katana.
Did you bring your katana?
Well, I'll let you on a little secret. That katana is extremely expensive and does not belong to me.
All right.
They don't even let me take it 2 steps off the set, let alone bring it home.
It sounds like a very very intense character. How do you manage to
oh, please! I'm an African woman. I have tons of rage. You know, I just have to access it for her, which is not that hard.
What are your work methods?
My work ethics.
You know, like what's your day like? You know?
It really depends. You know, I'm also a playwright, and so it really depends on which thing I'm focused on that day. I'm also, you know, the co-founder and president of this organization, so it just depends on what we're doing on that day. The times I'm focused completely on Amasi. When I wake up in the morning, there are times I'm waking up at 4 a.m. and driving to set, and there are times that I'm waking up and going to rehearsal of my newest play, which is how me and Ross actually became good friends, because he graciously agreed to be in my last play, Familiar, which finished last month.
So it's a full-time job. You don't go to work because you're working on something. Even if you're not working on anything, it's a full-time job.
Even if you're not working on anything, you're working on something. Definitely in my experience of the things I'm trying to get done, especially when you've created an organization. When you've co-created an organization, there's always things to do. There's always stuff to get done. And when you're a writer, there's always stuff to get done. So it is a constant. It is constantly working on what is the top priority today. How is the task going to be completed, and how do I make sure I get to completion, and also have a good process, because that's crucial. Process is crucial, and I think that's what we also try to build in our artists here in Amasi, is that it's about process, and they're working on that really well right now with Ross, in terms of understanding that process is key. Don't run for result. Really take the time to be an artist, and that involves really getting lost and losing all sense of time and space, and really getting absorbed in the craft, and that's when you find new things.
And to add to that, I would say that, off of your previous question, I would say about 90% of what we do as artists, whatever art field you work in, is about seeking that work. It is about creating new opportunities for yourself, or going out on auditions, or creating new work, or in the case of Almasi, really laying the foundation for artists to really learn and to work on that process that Danai is mentioning.
And Rose, can you tell us about your character? You play Aaron, right?
I do. I play Aaron, and he's just a sweet Boy Scout of a guy who is basically, and I don't want to ruin it for too many fans who aren't caught up on the show, but I'll just keep it rather vague. But he is, in a sense, rescued or ushered this band of survivors into a new community that he belongs to, in the hopes that he can help them out. And I don't want to say too much, because spoiler alerts and all that. So.
What has been your most memorable performance?
So far, actually the most memorable performance, I think, was the first full episode I had was with Danai, and we have this incredibly bloody scene where we're driving through a road that's ridden with zombies, and just the thrill of being in that. I mean, it was a 12 or 14 hour shoot, 2 nights in a row. Very, very arduous, very long shoot, but we had a lot of fun doing that, and I got to know Danai very well during that night. Those 2 nights, actually.
We've got a few clips that we are going to play a little bit later.
Right.
Danai, what has been your most memorable performance? Not just Walking Dead, but in your career.
I think the first time I performed my play in the Continuum here in Zim was a very memorable day. It was Haifa 2006, and my play in the Continuum was a two-hander that deals with the story of the issue of HIV from the perspective of a Zimbabwean woman and a girl from Los Angeles, California. So I co-created with Nicole Salter. And the experience of bringing it home was, to me, very, very frightening and daunting and thrilling and exciting. And the way it really was, and my parents were going to see it, and it was kind of my first professional showing outside of school. And it had done extremely well in the U.S., but bringing it home was really the test, because it was me bringing myself to home and expressing home to home. And it was an amazing experience to put that out there for the first time that Friday afternoon in Haifa.
Which Zimbabwean story would you like or would you love to see being turned into a screenplay?
Oh, there's so many. My last play before this last one was about Zimbabwe in the 1890s, and I think I'd like to trek through the decades.
All right.
Because there's just so much fascinating history that I'd love to see us put on its feet. I know someone's doing Damudzo Marachena, his story right now, which I think could be really, really fascinating. There are a lot of things that we could put to screen, from Harvest of Thorns to the new novel by Novalet Bulawayo, We Need New Names. That could be a fascinating thing to see. And then some other short stories by Bettina Gappa, putting them to the screen could be fascinating. We have a lot.
She's a brilliant writer.
She is. We have a lot of stories. Also, oh my God, Yvonne Vera had some beautiful stories that I think could go on the screen beautifully. So there's a ton. I mean, I could spend the rest of my life trying to do that.
Last week we had last week or a week before that, we had a young lady called Jackie Chimtachu. She has written a book called The Great Enclosure, and it's been published by a British publishing house. A brilliant book on Great Zimbabwe, and Hollywood is doing a screenplay. You know, when you see young writers, you know, reimagining our history and our imagery, it's a really beautiful and touching thing.
Absolutely.
You know, I wish she was here with us in the studio. You know.
No, I'd love to meet her.
You know. So which icon, which Zimbabwean icon would you like to play? You know.
Oh gosh.
Unfortunately, one of the most disappointing things is that our women role models are not spoken of. They are not, you know, written.
They're not celebrated.
They are not celebrated. It's almost like it's a patriarch history or documentation. You know.
I don't do that. All my plays are very focused on the female voice.
On the female voice.
Oh, definitely, definitely, all of them. It's so interesting. I mean, there's so many women that I think could be very interesting to play. Oh yeah, I wouldn't even want to rank them, but I definitely trust me. I have my list in my head. I'm just not saying them out right now.
So, what has been your personal and professional experience on the international scene?
Oh gosh, that's what concerning what exactly? Oh my goodness.
Like
that's
the
broad.
difference. The difference is that we have, you know, our own local creative industry and the international.
Well, you know, it's very difficult to compare the two. You know what I mean? That's why I think we created Almasi, was the idea of how do we bridge this. Patients, you know, spent a decade in the United States. I've been there for a while now. So we understand that there's a huge disparity, of course, in the development of the industry. But of course, we understand that Hollywood has been around for like 100 years, and it's been very, you know, very deeply invested in and built up. But it, you know, so to expect us to have exactly that is insane. But it's a question of how do we, you know, as we start
how do we achieve that?
Well, yeah, and how do we achieve our own version, and how do we become our own excellent version of something like that? And I think that is a very, you have to have a vision for that, and it's a long road, to be really point blank honest with ourselves, because, you know, we're just coming from a totally different perspective than what was built up starting way back in the 1930s or something in the United States. So, you know, we can't do the direct comparison, but we can transfer skills.
All right.
And we have some Zimbabwean artists who we facilitated going to the United States, patients included, so that they can get that sort of exposure and become more cutting edge within themselves. But as someone who's kind of has her foot on in both countries, I would say it's very important to me to bring Americans to Zimbabwe, not only for the Zimbabwean but for the American, because there is about the opening the eye of getting a global perspective from both sides, and I think that always helps artists from both parts of the world become fuller and become more innovative and connected to everything in terms of their own artistic voice. So I think that sort of meshing of voices and connecting and collaboration, which is in our title, is very much about creating the best craft and art we can in both places. Because America can be very insulated and insular, and that's something that as someone who's from somewhere else, it gets very frustrating being there. And that's why when I do my plays there, they're always about Africa. Because it is about saying, okay, we have to actually have the other voice. You have to hear other voices of the world. You can't just keep hearing your own.
True. I'm going to play clip.
Why?
Because I can.
No.
The governor told me what happened. Michonne, you can't do things like this. You're freaking people out. You're freaking me out.
The northeast wall is guarded by some girl. We can escape there after dark.
We are not prisoners here.
No one who comes here leaves.
What are you talking about?
It's safe. There's food, there's shelter, there's people.
For God's sake.
That's what they show you, but you can't leave unless they make you.
You are not making any sense.
Misha, maybe you need to sit for a minute. You need to trust me. And you need to give me more to go on. We got a good thing going here.
I thought this was temporary.
And I think we need this. I want to give this place a real shot.
I tried.
Breaking into houses, that is not trying. That is sabotaging.
Do you remember that part?
Vaguely. That's from the beginning of the season 3.
All right. What was going on?
You
Yes.
tell me you pulled out the clip.
Someone is asking, do you watch your own performances?
Sometimes, not all the time. Maybe about 70% of the time, or 60.
And Ross, do you watch your own performances?
I do, only because The Walking Dead was it was one of my favorite shows for many years since Halloween of 2010. So when I finally booked it, I was over the moon. I couldn't believe it. It's been such a surreal experience to work with Danai and work with Andy and Norman to get to know some of the actors that I've appreciated and admired for so long, and now actually get to know them as people. So I do watch it. I'm still a fan of the show, and I really want to watch every episode. So,
Which other productions have you been part of?
I was on Mad Men. Oh, sorry, getting a little blip there. Sorry about that. I was on Mad Men last year. I've done a lot of independent film and TV work, but this is certainly the biggest break I've gotten since I arrived in LA.
All right. That's and Patience. How does one get involved in our mercy?
Well, we always put calls out for people on our Facebook page or Twitter of things that will be going on, and people can feel free, or they can log on to our website and find out what's happening and what programs we have.
What's your Facebook ID?
It's Almasi Collaborative Arts, and our Twitter handle is @Almasi Arts.
Right. I'm going to play the next clip where she's saying some.
That could be one of several scenes.
That's going to sound so brutal for the listeners that when they just turned in, like, what are they listening
I
to?
know. What is that? It doesn't sound like a good song.
How long did it take you to learn how to fight, how to kill zombies?
I didn't have much time. Television is very fast. They hired me on March 15th, and I had to be at the studio ready to start shooting stuff like that by the end of April. And then it took about 3 weeks to solidify who my trainer was going to be. So I had 3 weeks, basically. And it's an ongoing process, but I had 3 weeks before I had to do any scene where it looked like I knew how to handle that weapon.
Right. And before that time, you didn't know how to fight.
I hadn't. Thankfully, there were some things that I do naturally in my own workout routines that helped. I do sort of certain types of boot camp type workouts that involve a lot of kicks and punches and things that actually became very useful for me to learn as I learned how to use a weapon like that. But there's so many things about that weapon that you can't pre-learn. You just have to go through the pain, and there was a lot of pain.
We got a message here. I love the show. I'm really passionate about art as a whole. And then Simba from Blueyo, Danai, do you have any regrets of choosing that career? And Tshila, if Danai was to venture into music, Eminem was going to have a difficult time because that lady speaks faster. And someone is asking what's the name of the movie. The movie is called Walking Dead. And
TV show.
Someone is listening from the US. Anzi, I know that clip. It's from season 3 in the governor's town. Shout out to Danai showing love to Zim. That's Kemika Ali is listening from California.
It's a dedicated fan.
Yes, thank you.
What advice do you have for Zimbabwean actors and actresses?
I think I'd like to start with patience because I'd love us to contextualize what perhaps the vision is and why we created what we created. I'd like her to start that off.
I think the vision is ultimately to teach Zimbabweans how to tell our own stories well. And it starts with us getting the training, because I think that's what's lacking over here. We've got nowhere to go to get training for ourselves, so you literally hit a ceiling and you've got nowhere left to grow. So I think this collaboration we have between Zimbabweans and Americans, we're really seeing a lot of benefits to the Zimbabwean artists and an improvement in the way we're able to tell our own stories.
Right. And I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Danai. Which Zimbabwean story would you love to see turned into a screenplay?
Wow, that's a very difficult question. I wouldn't be able to answer that right away.
Alright.
Yeah, because I think just like what we've been saying, there's so many stories that haven't been told yet.
There's a very interesting one I just thought of, that the first lady to go to the University of then Rhodesia. I would love to actually trek through her story. I think she's actually my aunt. Mrs. Kachingo, I think she passed away in the last couple of years. But she's my aunt through marriage. But that sort of a story, those sort of untold pockets of history, what was that like?
The intricacies of history.
Yeah, what was that like to be the first one to trek through that institution then, and to make it?
Someone wants to know, how do you spell Aumasi? They want to look you up on Facebook.
A-L-M as in Monday, A-S-I.
And how long are you going to be around?
Unfortunately, I'm not around too long. I have to go off. I would be here longer. I think I'm only here through the next week. I have to go to London for the beginnings of... They're rehearsing a play that was done here with Patience, Eclipsed. One of my last plays about women in war in Liberia.
The first production Almasi did. Full production. Yeah, in 2012.
So now it's being done in London, so I have to go there for the first week of rehearsals. Otherwise, I would have stayed longer, definitely.
Has it been published? Is there any...
Eclipse? Oh yeah. Eclipse was done here. It was done at Haifa and Reps.
Haifa 2012, yeah.
How do we get a hold of the copy? Is there a copy?
Of Eclipsed?
Yeah.
Oh, we can email that to you. That's easy.
All right.
I don't know. It's slowly but surely, like in the continuum, my first play was published and has been a part of an acting syllabus. I mean, a work syllabus for O or A level. I'm not sure. They were just saying that they're looking at Eclipsed for that as well. So hopefully they'll become more and more available. I mean, that is always the goal, is to bring the work home and to allow it to be accessible to whoever wants to have access to it.
Rose, are you going to have any time to, look around, move around and see Zimbabwe? Is it your first time?
First time in Africa. I hope so. I'm having a blast. I mean, I was telling the nice friend earlier that I just said that this reminds me of my vision of heaven and all the paintings of heaven that I grew up with. This looks just absolutely gorgeous. I cannot believe how stunning the countryside is out here. So I'd love to get out and check that out. Absolutely. Maybe check out
We hope to
Victoria
take a
Falls.
excursion.
Yeah, I'd like to check it out.
And what advice do you have for Zimbabwean actors and actresses, or aspiring actors and actresses?
Well, I would really point out the fact that it is, since it is an international market, everything is becoming, so democratized by the fact that there is the internet. We have access to filming equipment. You have access to recording equipment, like what you have, of course. You can very easily, invest in some equipment that's going to allow you to get your voice out there and connect with other artists in Zimbabwe and around the world. So I would really just don't get discouraged. The biggest thing, don't get discouraged and don't feel like you don't have a voice only because you're in a certain part of the world. Everyone has to start somewhere. And I certainly, at the age of 9 in Littleton, Colorado, never thought that I would ever be in Zimbabwe, helping actors out in Danai's organization. So it's all about trusting in yourself, trusting in your art, and never getting discouraged.
And I would encourage, from what we've experienced on the ground sometimes, it is so hard because it is a question of where do I put my talent and how can I actually be affirmed and be given access and opportunity. But I think it's definitely about remembering that you can find it, and that there is always a hustle that has to happen for every artist across the globe. Actually, you always have to hustle. It's not easy for anybody. I think it's helpful to bring actors and artists here from the U.S. and everywhere who have it, one would say, easier in a sense, but don't. They had to work very hard. They had to hustle, and even though they're in a more established environment, there's still a lot of pain and grief and rejection. And I want to encourage the Zimbabwean artists to stay dedicated. I think one of the most painful experiences me and patients have had is when we've seen great talent and we've invested in it, and then they've kind of dropped away, or they've dropped interest, or they've dropped out of ongoing productions that we've invested into them with and brought people to them with, and they just go somewhere else and drop it. And that is the retention can be really disturbing and distressing when you see true talent and you see where it could end up going, and you're actually interested in continuing to invest in it, and they decide and they give up. And I think that is very, very much something that I want to encourage Zimbabwean artists to do, is when people are investing in you and they're seeing your talent and they're giving you opportunities, stick with it, because there's no easy road to being fully celebrated as an artist. It is an ongoing journey. You have to love the journey. You have to love the opportunity, but keep going. Don't
the sweat, the pain.
Yeah, love the sweat and the pain. Don't look at it as something that's telling you to stop. Nothing is achieved without struggle, and we should know that.
Right. Danai, thank you for coming through. We have come to the end of our program. Ross, it's been lovely having you in the studio with us on Backstage. It's lovely to have you in Zimbabwe. Patience, it's always a pleasure. Hope to see you soon. Don't forget to tell us when you are having your launches, your productions. We would love to have you back on radio. Amasi is doing a great job. The last one that we did with you for the play, Fabulation, was one of our best programs. So we would love, that level of standard, that quality is what we would want you to maintain, because that will make us look good.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. My name is Tshila. We've come to the end of our program. Join me again next week for another edition of Backstage, the official access to the main stage. Stand by for the news at 9, and after that is Judgment Yard.
ZiFM Backstage with Tshila on ZiFM Stereo. Backstage with Tshila on ZiFM Stereo. Tshila on ZiFM Stereo.